The sun hung low over the cracked asphalt of Route 66, casting long shadows that stretched like fingers across the dusty roadside stand. Lily, a girl no older than 12, stood there every afternoon, her small hands clutching a bouquet of wilted wildflowers she'd gathered from the barren edges of the desert. Her clothes were threadbare, patched with mismatched fabric that spoke of too many mended heartaches, and her eyes, wide and hopeful, scanned the endless stream of cars and trucks roaring by. But it wasn't the tourists or the truckers she watched for. It was them. The thunderous rumble that shook the ground like an approaching storm. That day, the air was thick with the scent of hot tar and blooming sagebrush, the kind that clung to your skin and whispered of forgotten promises. Lily had been waving at the Hells Angels convoy for weeks now, ever since their bikes first blurred past her stand like an ironclad herd. She didn't know why. Maybe it was the way their leather vests gleamed under the relentless sun, or the quiet strength in their formation that made her feel less alone in the vast emptiness. But wave she did, every single day, her arm pumping with a child's unyielding optimism, a fragile flag against the world's indifference. Today, though, the wave faltered. As the lead bikes crested the horizon, a battered pickup truck screeched to a halt beside her stand, kicking up a cloud of red dust that choked the air. Two men spilled out, their faces twisted in the harsh light, rough types from the nearby town, the kind who preyed on the weak because the world had broken them first. "Hey, kid," the larger one growled, his voice gravelly from years of smoke and regret. "Those flowers ain't worth spit. Hand over the cash box or we'll make sure you don't sell nothing tomorrow." Lily's heart hammered like a piston, her fingers tightening around the stems until they bruised. The cash box was her lifeline, pennies and dollar bills scraped together for her mother's medicine, the only thing keeping the shadow of illness from swallowing their rundown trailer whole. She backed away, the wildflowers trembling in her grip, but the men advanced, their shadows engulfing her tiny frame. Fear clawed up her throat, sharp and cold, as one reached out, his hand rough as sandpaper. That's when the rumble hit, not the distant hum of traffic, but a full-throated roar that vibrated through the earth, drowning out the men's laughter. The Hells Angels convoy, 50 strong, engines snarling like awakened beasts, rolled into view, a wall of chrome and black leather cutting through the haze. At the front rode Ethan "Hawk" Harlan, his weathered face lined with the scars of old battles, both on the battlefield and off. He'd seen too much in his 40 years, the loss of his brother in a desert war, the betrayal of a corrupt system that left him adrift, patching together a family from the outcasts who shared his road. The Angels weren't just a club. They were his chosen kin, bound by oaths whispered over campfires and sealed in the heat of midnight rides. Hawk's eyes, sharp as a hawk's talon under his aviator shades, locked onto the scene. Lily's wave, that daily ritual he'd noticed from the corner of his vision, flashed in his mind. It had stirred something buried deep, a memory of his own sister, lost to the streets years ago, waving goodbye from a porch that never felt like home. He signaled with a gloved fist, and the convoy slowed, engines idling to a menacing growl that made the pickup's occupants freeze. The men straightened, bravado cracking like dry earth. "What's this?" The larger one spat, but his voice wavered as Hawk dismounted, his boots hitting the pavement with a deliberate thud. He was built like the bikes he rode, solid, unyielding, with tattoos snaking up his arms like maps of forgotten promises. Behind him, the Angels fanned out, a silent phalanx of leathers and determination, their presence alone enough to tip the scales of power. "Back off," Hawk said, his tone low and steady, carrying the weight of a man who'd stared down worse than roadside thugs. He stepped between Lily and the men, his broad shoulders a shield forged in fire. The girl peeked out, her eyes wide with a mix of terror and awe, the flowers still clutched like a talisman. The thugs exchanged glances, sizing up the odds. One muttered something about not worth the trouble, and they retreated to their truck, tires spinning gravel as they peeled away in a cloud of defeat. The convoy watched them go, engines purring like guardians at rest. Hawk turned to Lily, crouching to her level, his shades pushed up to reveal eyes softened by unspoken sorrows. "You all right, kid?" he asked, his voice rough but kind, like sandpaper smoothed by time. She nodded, though tears streaked her dust-caked cheeks. They wanted my money. For Mama." The words tumbled out, raw and small, carrying the weight of a world too heavy for her shoulders. Hawk glanced at the cash box, then at the wilted flowers. Something shifted in him, a spark igniting an old vow, one made to his brother under starlit skies, to protect the innocent, to stand when others turned away. "Those waves of yours," he said, a faint smile cracking his stoic facade. "They got our attention." "What's your name?" "Lily," she whispered, extending a flower like an offering. He took it, the petal's fragility, a reminder of life's quiet battles. "Ethan. And these boys here? We're family. You need help. You wave again. We ride for promises like that." As the sun dipped lower, painting the desert in hues of gold and crimson, Lily watched the convoy rev to life once more. But this time, Hawk lingered, his bike idling beside her stand. He'd call the crew together that night around a flickering fire and share her story. It wasn't just a rescue, it was the beginning of a bond, a promise reborn from the ashes of lost dreams. Little did she know, those waves would summon not just protection, but a tide of loyalty that would sweep away the darkness threatening her world. The road stretched on, endless and unforgiving, but for the first time, Lily felt the rumble in her chest, like a heartbeat shared. The angels rode out, dust swirling in their wake, leaving behind a girl who now believed in guardians on two wheels. And Hawk? He gripped the handlebars tighter, the flower's scent mingling with leather and gasoline, a scent of redemption, pulling him toward a purpose he'd almost forgotten. Word of Lily's stand spread through the club, like wildfire on dry plains. That evening, as the sun bled into the horizon, Hawk gathered his brothers at their desert outpost, a ramshackle haven of tents and bikes under the vast Nevada sky. The air hummed with the day's heat, cooling now into the crisp bite of twilight. Around the central fire, faces glowed in the orange flicker, grizzled veterans like Marcus, who'd lost a leg in some long-ago skirmish, and young recruits like Tyler, eyes still wide with the fire of newfound belonging. "She's just a kid," Hawk said, tossing the wildflower into the flames. It curled and blackened, releasing a faint, sweet smoke. "Waving at us like we're her lifeline. And today, those bastards tried to break her." Murmurs rippled through the group, nods of agreement. The Hell's Angels weren't saints. Life on the road had scarred them all. But they lived by a code older than the highways they claimed. Promises kept, no matter the cost. Ethan had shared Lily's plight, the ailing mother, the trailer on the edge of town, the daily grind that ground hope to dust. "We ride for her," Marcus rumbled, his voice a low thunder. "Get her what she needs, medicine, food, whatever it takes." Hawk met his gaze, the fire reflecting the resolve in his eyes. "More than that, we show her she's not alone. I've got a promise to keep, one I made to my own blood. This girl's wave, it's calling us back to it." As the night deepened, stars pricking the velvet sky like distant promises, the angels planned. Scouting runs to the local pharmacy, quiet deliveries under cover of dusk. No fanfare, no glory, just the silent honor of men who'd chosen family over fate. Back at her stand the next day, Lily waited, the sun climbing high and merciless. Her hands fidgeted with fresh-picked blooms, the memory of the rescue still warm, like engine heat. When the convoy appeared, it wasn't the full thunder, just Hawk and a few others, saddlebags heavier than before. He dismounted, handing her a small package wrapped in plain brown paper. "For your mama," he said simply. Inside, bottles of medicine procured through back channels and old favors, enough to buy time against the illness's grip. Lily's eyes welled, but she smiled, a real one, bright as dawn on chrome. "Why?" she asked, voice small against the wind. Hawk knelt again, the desert breeze tugging at his vest. "Because promises don't fade. Yours waved us in, ours rides you out." He ruffled her hair, then mounted up. The engine's roar of vow echoed in steel. As they departed, Lily waved harder. The flowers in her stand seeming less wilted, the road less lonely. But shadows lingered, the thugs from before weren't done, and deeper troubles brewed in the town, where corruption festered like an open wound. Hawk felt it in his bones, the pull of a larger fight. This wasn't just about one girl, it was about reclaiming what the world tried to steal. Trust, honor, the unbreakable thread of chosen kin. The days blurred into a rhythm of dust and determination. Lily's stand became a beacon, her waves a signal fire. The angels rotated shifts, ensuring no harm came near. Whispers spread through the club, stories of Hawk's past, the brother lost to a system that chewed up heroes and spat out ghosts. Ethan had walked away from it all, vowing never to let innocence fall again. Lily's plight reignited that fire, binding the crew tighter than any oath. One evening, as twilight painted the sky in bruised purples, a call came over the crackling radio in Hawk's bike. Tyler's voice, urgent. "Boss, those punks from the other day. They're holed up in town, planning payback, and word is the sheriff's in their pocket." Hawk's jaw tightened, the flower's memory fueling his resolve. The road to justice was never smooth, but for Lily, for the promise, he'd navigate every twist. The angels would ride, not for vengeance, but for the quiet victory of standing firm. And in that stand, lives would change, woven into the fabric of loyalty that outlasted the miles. The twilight deepened into a bruised indigo over the Nevada Badlands, the kind of sky that swallowed secrets whole. Hawk's bike idled at the edge of the outpost, its engine a low growl mirroring the tension coiling in his gut. The radio crackled again, Tyler's voice cutting through like a knife on flint. "Boss, they're at the old saloon in Dustville, 3 of them, plus a couple locals, talking big about teaching the kid a lesson and running the angels off the road." Hawk's gloved hand tightened on the throttle, the leather creaking under his grip. Dustville was a speck of a town, all faded signs and boarded windows, where the law bent like a reed in the wind. He'd ridden through worse, but this felt personal now, a thread pulling at the frayed edges of his old vow. His brother, Jake, had died in a sandbox halfway across the world, betrayed by brass, who valued orders over lives. Hawk had sworn then, under a sky no different from this one, to shield the vulnerable from such shadows. Lily's waves had tugged that promise back to life, fragile as the petals she'd offered. "Stay low, Tyler," Hawk replied, his voice steady as forged steel. "Marcus and me'll scout it. No moves till we know the play." He killed the engine, the sudden silence amplifying the distant howl of coyotes. The outpost fire had died to embers, casting flickering ghosts on the faces of his brothers as he strode back. Marcus rose from his folding chair, prosthetic legs scraping the gravel, his broad frame a testament to battles that left marks deeper than skin. "Trouble?" the older man asked, eyes narrowing under bushy brows. "Those lowlifes from the stand," Hawk said, keeping his tone even, and the sheriff's name came up. "Sounds like the town's rot runs deep." Marcus nodded, no surprise in his weathered features. They'd all crossed paths with badges tarnished by greed, small towns where power pooled in the wrong hands, squeezing the life from folks like Lily's family. They mounted up, 2 bikes slicing through the cooling night, headlights carving tunnels in the dark. The road to Dustville wound like a serpent, sagebrush whispering against the tires, the air sharp with the tang of creosote and distant rain. Hawk's mind replayed the girl's face, those wide eyes, trusting now where fear had ruled. He'd seen the trailer park on his way back yesterday, a cluster of rusted hulks on the outskirts, where Lily's home squatted like a forgotten relic. Her mother, frail from whatever shadow gripped her, deserved better than scraps and threats. The saloon loomed as they crested the hill, its neon sign buzzing faintly. Last chance. Bikes lined the lot like sentinels, but Hawk and Marcus parked a block away, shadows blending with the alley's gloom. They approached on foot, boots silent on the cracked sidewalk, the murmur of voices spilling from the swinging doors like smoke. Hawk peered through a grimy window, the interior a haze of cigarette fog and dim bulbs. The two thugs from the roadside sat at a scarred table, flanked by a third man, leaner, with a snake tattoo curling up his neck. Laughter barked out, coarse and mean, as they clinked bottles. "Kids got bikers playing hero now." The larger thug sneered, his face flushed from cheap whiskey. "Sheriff says we handle it quiet. Torch the stand, scare 'em off. Town don't need outsiders stirring up the peace." Hawk's blood simmered, but he held back, fist clenched at his side. Marcus laid a hand on his shoulder, a silent anchor. This wasn't a brawl, it was a web, spun by authority gone sour. The sheriff, some relic named Harlan, no relation but the irony stung, had a reputation for looking the other way when payoffs lined his pockets. Protection rackets, land grabs, Dustville's underbelly fed on the desperate, like Lily's family clinging to that trailer. They slipped away before drawing eyes, the night air cooling the heat in Hawk's veins. Back on the bikes, engines roaring to life, they cut toward the trailer park instead. It was a risk, but Lily's wave demanded more than watching from afar. The park gates creaked open under the moonlight, rows of homes lit by porch bulbs like weary stars. Hawk spotted hers by the faint glow, a single lamp in the window, wildflowers wilted in a jar on the stoop. He knocked softly, the sound echoing in the quiet. Footsteps shuffled inside, and the door cracked open to reveal Lily, her hair tousled from sleep, clutching a worn blanket. Surprise lit her face, then a shy smile. "Mr. Hawk, it's late." "Couldn't sleep thinking on you," he said. Crouching again to bridge the gap, Marcus hung back, a respectful shadow. "Mind if we talk? About your mama, the stand, whatever's weighing heavy." She hesitated, glancing over her shoulder, then nodded, stepping out onto the porch. The air smelled of damp earth and faint medicine, the trailer groaning under a breeze. Lily sat on the steps, knees drawn up, and spoke in a rush. The illness that had stolen her father's strength years ago, leaving him gone too soon, the bills piling like sand dunes, the daily trek to gather flowers because the stand was her one steady light. "Mama says we're fighters," she whispered, eyes tracing the stars. "But sometimes it feels like the world's winning." Hawk listened, the words carving deeper into his resolve. Marcus shifted, his voice gruff but gentle. "We've all fought shadows, kid, lost pieces along the way. But family, the kind you choose, it pulls you through." He shared a glimpse of his own scars, not the visible ones, but the quiet ache of comrades left behind in the dust. As they talked, a distant rumble approached. Not bikes, but the sheriff's cruiser. Lights off, prowling the park's edge. Hawk tensed, spotting it through the gloom. It paused, engine idling like a predator's breath, then moved on. A warning, or just patrol? Either way, the threat circled closer. "We'll handle the noise in town," Hawk promised, standing. "You wave if anything feels off, day or night. We're riding for you now." He pressed a small envelope into her hand. Cash from the club's pot, no strings, just a bridge over the gap. Lily's fingers closed around it, gratitude shining brighter than the porch light. "Thank you for seeing me." They rode out, the trailer's light fading in the mirrors, but the weight of her trust settled heavy on Hawk's shoulders. Back at the outpost, the fire reignited, a brothers' gathering as dawn's first blush touched the horizon. Tyler reported in. The thugs were mobilizing at first light, aiming to hit the stand before the convoy passed. And the sheriff. Whispers said he turned a blind eye for a cut of the fear they sold. Hawk stared into the flames, the wildflower's echo lingering in his mind. This ride wasn't just protection. It was reckoning with the corruption that bred such men, honoring the promise that bound his chosen family. The angels would stand, not with fists first, but with the unyielding truth of loyalty. As the sky lightened, engines stirred, ready for the dawn patrol. But deep in the town's veins, darker currents flowed, secrets tied to Lily's past, waiting to surface and test every vow they'd made. The road ahead twisted, demanding more than miles. It called for the soul's quiet steel. The first rays of dawn sliced through the Badlands like golden blades, painting the desert in stark contrasts of light and shadow. Hawk led the convoy out from the outpost, a lean phalanx of 10 bikes cutting the chill morning air, engines humming a low hymn of resolve. The scent of dew-kissed sage mingled with the sharp bite of exhaust, a reminder that new days carried old weights. Tyler rode shotgun on Hawk's flank, his younger frame tense under the leather, while Marcus brought up the rear, his steady presence an anchor in the uncertainty. They'd left the bulk of the crew behind, 50 strong. But discretion was their edge against the town's festering undercurrent. Dustville's outskirts blurred past, ramshackle homes huddled against the wind like weary travelers. Hawk's mind churned, replaying Lily's words from the night before. The world's winning. He'd felt that pull before in the haze of war zones where promises shattered like glass under boot heels. Jake's face haunted him then. A grin frozen in memory, cut short by decisions made in distant boardrooms. This ride was no different. It was a stand against the slow poison of neglect, the kind that turned good folks into ghosts. They crested the rise overlooking Route 66, the roadside stand a speck in the vast expanse. Lily was already there, earlier than usual, her small figure dwarfed by the horizon. She arranged the flowers with careful hands, stems snapped fresh from the scrub, their colors muted but defiant against the gravel. No sign of trouble yet, but Hawk's instincts prickled. The air felt charged, like the pause before a storm breaks. "Spread out," Hawk signaled with a gloved hand, the convoy fanning into a loose perimeter. They idled at a distance, engines a subtle rumble, eyes scanning the empty road. Tyler dismounted first, sauntering toward the stand like a casual passerby, his vest zipped to hide the club's patch. "Mornin', Lily," he called, voice light but watchful. "Bouquet for the road." She looked up, surprise blooming into that familiar wave, small arm lifting high, a beacon in the growing light. "Tyler, you came early. Mama's feeling a bit better today. Said to thank Mr. Hawk again." Her smile carried the envelope's weight, a spark of hope amid the wilted blooms. Before Tyler could reply, the growl of an engine shattered the calm. Not bikes, but the pickup from before, barreling down the asphalt with reckless speed, dust plume trailing like a war banner. It skidded to a halt 20 yards out, the larger thug leaping from the cab, shotgun propped casual on his shoulder. His partner, the snake-tattooed one, hung back, eyes darting to the idling angels. A third figure emerged from the truck's shadow, the sheriff himself, Harlan, his uniform crisp but his gaze slippery as oil. No lights, no sirens, just authority cloaked in complicity. "Stands closed, kid," the thug barked, advancing with a swagger that masked his nerves. "Town ordnance, no more peddling on the highway. Pack it up or we do it for you." Lily froze, flowers slipping from her grasp to scatter like fallen stars. Her face paled, the wave forgotten, as fear clawed back into her eyes. Tyler stepped forward, casual but firm, positioning himself between her and the threat. "Easy there. Girl's just earning an honest buck. What's the real play?" Sheriff Harlan sauntered closer, his boots kicking up pebbles, a smirk playing under his mustache. "Out-of-towners stirring trouble. We've had complaints, folks saying you're scaring off business, running rackets." His words dripped false concern, but Hawk caught the undercurrent, a warning laced with greed. Whispers from the night scout painted the picture, Harlan squeezing locals for protection, turning a blind eye to the thugs' schemes in exchange for cuts. Lily's family, with their trailer on prime scrubland, eyed for some developer's grab, made easy prey. From his vantage, Hawk watched, heart steady but fists itching. This wasn't random, it was calculated, a thread in the town's corrupt weave. He killed his engine, the silence amplifying the tension, and dismounted with deliberate slowness. Marcus followed, the pair approaching like shadows lengthening at noon. The convoy held position, a silent wall that made the sheriff's smirk falter. "Morning, officer," Hawk said, voice even as the desert floor. He stopped a respectful distance, eyes locking onto Harlan's without challenge. Yet. "Heard there's some mix-up here. Lily's stand's been a fixture longer than most, no harm in wildflowers." Harlan's gaze flicked to the bikes, calculating odds. "Harlan," he introduced, as if the name carried weight. "And you are? Club like yours don't belong meddling in local affairs. Move along, or I'll cite the lot of you for loitering." The thug chuckled, pumping the shotgun slide for emphasis, but his eyes betrayed the bluff. Lily edged behind Tyler, her breath coming in shallow bursts, the scattered petals crunching underfoot. Hawk's mind raced. Violence would feed the cycle, turn guardians into the monsters they fought. No, this called for the code's deeper steel, truth exposed, promises upheld without the swing of fists. "Meddlin'," Hawk echoed, stepping closer, his presence filling the space like engine roar. "We're answering a call. Kid here's been waving us by for weeks, innocent as dawn. You want to shut her down, fine. But threats? That's not law. That's fear-mongering." He glanced at Lily, softening his tone. "Tell 'em, kid, this stands for your mama. Medicine, hope, ain't no racket in that." Emboldened, Lily peeked out. Voice trembling but clear. "It's true, we don't hurt nobody, please, sir." Harlan shifted, discomfort cracking his facade. The thugs exchanged uneasy looks, the shotgun lowering a fraction. In the distance, a few early cars slowed, rubbernecking the standoff. Whispers of witnesses planting seeds of doubt. Marcus cleared his throat, his gravelly timbre cutting in. "We've seen your type before. Sheriff, badges for sale, squeezing the small, but folks talk, and we listen." The air thickened, the sun climbing higher, baking the asphalt into a shimmering haze. Harlan's hand hovered near his radio, but he hesitated. The angels' numbers, their quiet unity, tipped the invisible scale. "This ain't over," he muttered, signaling the thugs back to the truck. "Clear the stand by noon, or warrants come next." The pickup revved, peeling away in a spray of gravel, leaving echoes of retreat. Hawk exhaled, the knot in his chest easing fractionally. He turned to Lily, helping gather the fallen flowers, their stems resilient despite the trampling. "You held strong, kid. That's the real fight." Tears brimmed, but she nodded, clutching a bloom to her chest. "They won't stop. Mama said the land. Someone's wantin' it bad." The words hung, unveiling deeper roots. Eviction shadows, tied to Harlan's web. Tyler radioed the outpost. "Full alert, dig into the sheriff's dealings." As the convoy reformed, engines stirring the dust, Hawk lingered a moment, the girl's wave resuming tentative but unbroken. This dawn patrol had bought time, but the promise demanded more, unraveling the corruption before it choked the light. Riding back, the Badlands unfolded endless, wind-whipping tales of loyalty into the air. Hawk gripped the bars, the flower's faint scent clinging to his vest, a talisman against the gathering storm. The angels' bond tightened, forged in these quiet battles, pulling them toward a reckoning that would test every scar, every vow. Lily's world teetered, but with guardians awakened, the scales of justice began to shift, slow and inexorable as the rising sun. The midday sun beat down on Route 66 like a relentless forge, turning the asphalt into a rippling mirage that distorted the horizon. Hawk pulled his bike to the shoulder, a mile from Lily's stand, the engine's heat radiating against his boots as he cut the ignition. The convoy had scattered after the dawn skirmish, scouts peeling off to shadow the sheriff's movements, while the core group circled back to the outpost for regrouping. But Hawk couldn't shake the girl's parting words. Someone's wanting it bad. That trailer park sat on scrubland ripe for flipping, a forgotten parcel eyed by developers with deep pockets and deeper shadows. In towns like Dustville, land meant leverage, and leverage meant Harlan's cut. He dismounted, the gravel crunching underfoot like brittle bones, and scanned the empty road. The air shimmered with heat, carrying the faint, acrid tang of distant wildfires. A reminder that fires unseen could consume everything if left unchecked. Tyler rode up beside him, kicking his stand down with a metallic clang. "Boss!" Marcus is digging into records at the old library in town, quiet like, no badges sniffing around. But that sheriff, he's got ties to some outfit called Frontier Holdings. Word is they're pushing for a resort strip, buying up the edges. Hawk nodded, his shades reflecting the glare as he pulled a worn map from his saddlebag. It was a relic, creased from years of rides, marked with notes from past runs, promises etched in pencil and ink. Lily's folks been there since her pa passed. No deeds in their name, but squatters' rights hold if you fight for 'em. Harlan's playing eviction by proxy, using those thugs to scare 'em out. The thought twisted like a knife. He'd seen it before, in border towns where the vulnerable got bulldozed for progress that never reached them. His brother's death had been a different war, but the betrayal echoed the same. Systems rigged against the small, leaving scars that time couldn't mend. A low rumble approached from the east, not the convoy, but a lone rider breaking from the haze. It was Sarah, a nurse from the county clinic who'd patched up more than a few angels over the years. Her bike was a sleek cruiser, customized with medical kits strapped to the sides, her ponytail whipping like a flag in the wind. She'd crossed paths with Hawk during a roadside wreck 2 summers back, trading stories over coffee that revealed shared ghosts, her own loss of a sibling to a botched hospital run, fueling her oath to heal where others failed. The club had claimed her as kin, an honorary angel who rode for the wounded. She pulled up, engine fading to a purr, her face flushed under the helmet's shadow. "Ethan, I heard about the girl. Clinic buzz is full of it. Harlan's been leaning on suppliers, delaying meds to folks like her mama to pressure sales." Sarah's voice carried the quiet steel of someone who'd bandaged the fallout of corruption too many times. She handed over a folder, pilfered records fluttering in the breeze. "This proves it. Prescriptions rerouted, bills inflated. They're starving her out." Hawk flipped through the pages, the ink stark against yellowed paper, each line a testament to quiet cruelty. Lily's mother's name jumped out, Emma, frail but fighting, her chart dotted with denials stamped by Harlan's influence. "This ends now," he said, folding the folder into his vest. The sun climbed higher, baking the map in his hands, but a cool resolve settled in his chest. Promises weren't just words, they were the chains that bound the broken, pulling them from the abyss. They rode together toward the trailer park, the trio's engines sinking into a harmonious growl that cut through the stillness. Dust devils danced along the roadside, swirling petals from wild blooms like echoes of Lily's stand. As they neared the gates, the park unfolded in stark relief. Trailers clustered like survivors after a storm, laundry flapping on lines like surrendered flags. Children played in the dirt, their laughter a fragile counterpoint to the tension humming in the air. Hawk spotted Lily's home, the jar of wilted flowers still on the stoop, a sentinel against the encroaching threat. Lily was outside, sweeping the porch with a broom twice her size, her movements deliberate but weary. She looked up at the approaching bikes, her wave tentative at first, then full, arm arcing high, a spark of recognition lighting her face. Emma appeared in the doorway, leaning on a cane, her features gaunt but eyes sharp with the wariness of one who'd battled long. Sarah dismounted first, her nurse's bag slung over her shoulder like a shield. "Ma'am, I'm Sarah, friend of Ethan's. Mind if we talk?" Emma's gaze flicked to Hawk, assessing the leather-clad stranger with a mother's instinct. "Heard about the stand? Come in then. Coffee's weak, but it's hot." The interior was dim, lit by a single bulb that cast long shadows across faded curtains and a table scarred by years. The air smelled of herbal tea and faint antiseptic, the space a cocoon of resilience amid the decay. They sat, the folder opened like a map to buried truths. As Sarah explained the records, Emma's hands trembled around her mug, steam rising like unspoken fears. "We knew something was off. Meds come in late, prices doubling. My husband, he fought for this land after the mill closed, said it was ours, promised." Her voice cracked, the weight of loss mingling with defiance. Lily perched on a stool, listening wide-eyed, her small fingers twisting a stem from the jar. Hawk leaned forward, his voice low and steady. "That promise holds. We've got proof now, Harlan's game exposed, but we need more. Witnesses, papers, the club's riding with you." He met Emma's eyes, seeing the echo of his own buried grief. This wasn't just aid, it was redemption, weaving their chosen family into her frayed one. Tyler stood guard outside, radio crackling with updates. Marcus had uncovered deeds linking Frontier Holdings to the sheriff's brother-in-law, a web of favors and bribes. The conversation stretched, shadows lengthening as afternoon waned. Emma shared fragments of the past, the mill's collapse, debts that chained them, Harlan's early visits disguised as concern. Lily added her piece, voice gaining strength. "He came once, said the flowers a nuisance, but I waved anyway, felt like fighting back." Pride swelled in Hawk's chest. The girl's spirit was the unyielding core mirroring the angel's code. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the trailer like a warning. Tyler burst in, face taut. "Boss, Scout spotted the pickup circling the park. Thugs with tools, looking to mark the land or worse, and Harlan's cruiser just rolled in at the gate." Hawk rose, the chair scraping like a drawn blade. The room tensed, Emma gripping her cane, Sarah's hand on her bag. This was the ethical precipice. Confront without chaos, expose without escalation. "We meet 'em head on," Hawk said. "Not with force, with facts. Call the crew. Good time to show the town's watching." They stepped out into the golden light, bikes gleaming like armor. Lily's wave followed them, small but fierce, a promise etched in motion. As the convoy reformed in the distance, engines stirring the dust, Hawk felt the pull of legacy, the quiet sacrifice that bound outcasts into unbreakable kin. The confrontation loomed, not as a clash of steel, but a stand for justice's slow burn, where loyalty outshone corruption's glare. The road twisted toward truth, demanding every scar be bared, every vow renewed in the face of the storm. If this story is stirring something in you, hit that like button. It helps spread these tales of quiet courage far and wide. The wind howled through the trailer park like a harbinger, whipping dust into eddies that stung the eyes and carried the faint metallic scent of impending rain. Hawk stood at the forefront, his boots planted firm on the cracked earth, the weight of the folder in his vest a tangible anchor against the gathering storm. Behind him, Tyler and Sarah flanked the group, their silhouettes etched against the sinking sun that bled orange across the horizon. Emma gripped her cane tighter, her frail form a pillar of quiet defiance beside Lily, who clutched a handful of wildflower stems like a shield. The girl's eyes darted to the gate, where the sheriff's cruiser idled, its silhouette menacing in the lengthening shadows, flanked by the battered pickup and two more vehicles, reinforcements for Harlan's web of intimidation. Hawk's pulse thrummed steady, a rhythm, honed from years of riding the edge between chaos and code. He'd faced down worse than this. Sand-swept patrols where trust was the only armor, betrayals that left ghosts in his wake. Jake's promise echoed in his mind. Protect the light, no matter the dark that clawed for it. This stand wasn't about drawing lines in the dirt. It was about illuminating the rot, letting truth carve its own path. "Easy now," he murmured to the group, his voice low as the rumble of distant thunder. "We talk first. Show 'em the light they can't hide from." The gate creaked open under its own weight, and Harlan stepped through. His uniform starched, but his posture rigid with false authority. The thugs followed, tools glinting in their hands, hammers and stakes, meant for marking boundaries or breaking spirits. A fourth man trailed, slick in a button-down shirt, clipboard in hand like a badge of legitimacy. Frontier Holdings rep, no doubt, the puppet master pulling strings from afar. The air thickened, the scent of hot metal from the vehicles mingling with the earthy tang of churned soil, as if the land itself braced for the reckoning. "Sheriff," Hawk called out, stepping forward with measured calm, the folder half raised like an olive branch forged in evidence. "We got company. Figured you'd want to see this before things get messy." His tone carried no threat, only the unyielding weight of facts, the kind that eroded lies like wind on stone. Harlan halted 10 paces out, his eyes narrowing behind mirrored shades that reflected the group's resolve. The thugs shifted uneasily, their bravado wilting under the angel's distant growl. Scouts circling the perimeter, a reminder that isolation was an illusion. "Harlan?" the sheriff replied curtly, ignoring the introduction. "And this is private property business. You bikers clear out, or I'll add obstruction to the list." Emma's voice cut through, sharp despite her frailty. "This land's ours by right. My husband's sweat built it. You know that, Harlan. Been circling like vultures since he passed." Lily pressed closer to her mother, the flowers trembling in her grip, but her chin lifted, echoing the wave that had started it all, a small act of unbowed spirit. Sarah stepped up, her nurse's poise a steady counterpoint, and the meds. Clinic records show delays you signed off on, pressuring families to sell. That's not law, that's extortion. She slid the folder toward Harlan, pages fluttering open to reveal timestamps, signatures, the cold trail of manipulated fates. The developer's face paled, clipboard lowering as he scanned the evidence, the web tightening around him. The sheriff's jaw clenched, a flicker of uncertainty cracking his facade. He'd built his reign on whispers and shadows, small-town power unchecked until outsiders like the angels shone a light. One thug muttered, shifting his weight, but Harlan silenced him with a glare. "Fabrications!" he spat, but his voice lacked conviction, the words hanging hollow in the charged air. In the distance, more engines joined the fray, not aggressive, but a chorus of arrivals, locals drawn by the standoff, words spreading like sagebrush fire through the park. Faces peered from trailers, phones held high, capturing the moment in pixels that could unravel empires. Hawk pressed the advantage, his gaze locking onto Harlan's. "We ain't here to fight. We're here for promises, the ones you broke. Lily's mama fights every day. Her girl's waves called us because she saw something real in the road. You're selling out the very folks you swore to protect." The words landed like gravel under tires, stirring the dust of conscience. Marcus arrived then, rolling up on his bike with a quiet authority, dismounting to hand over a sealed envelope, deeds unearthed from dusty archives. Proving the squatter's claims stronger than any corporate ink, the developer cleared his throat, sweat beading on his brow despite the cooling breeze. This changes things. We'll review." But Harlan waved him silent, his hand twitching toward his radio. For a heartbeat, tension coiled like a spring, the possibility of escalation hanging palpable. The wind carrying the faint cry of a child from a nearby trailer, underscoring the stakes. Then a breakthrough. One of the thugs, the snake-tattooed one, dropped his tool with a clatter. "I'm done with this, Sheriff. Ain't worth the fallout." His defection rippled, the larger man hesitating, eyes flicking to the growing crowd. Harlan's empire cracked, the weight of witnesses and evidence too heavy to bluff away. "Stand down," he barked to his men, voice strained. "We'll investigate these claims, officially." It wasn't surrender, but a retreat. Harlan turning back to his cruiser, the pickup following in a haze of dust, the developer slinking away with promises of further talks. The group exhaled as one, the sun dipping lower, casting the park in a golden reprieve. Lily ran forward, thrusting a flower into Hawk's hand. "You did it," she whispered, her wave transforming into an embrace around his leg. Hawk knelt, the petal soft against his calloused palm. "Not done yet, kid. But we bought breathing room. Your strength, that's what turned it." Emma nodded gratitude, tears tracing lines in the dust on her cheeks, while Sarah checked her over, a quiet ritual of care. Tyler radioed the outpost, "Hold positions, but the tide's shifting." As twilight deepened, the angels reformed around the trailers, not as invaders but guardians, fires lit in pits, stories shared under the stars. Hawk sat with Lily and Emma, the folder now a shared talisman, mapping the path ahead. Whispers of deeper ties surfaced. Harlan's brother-in-law in Frontier's pocket, old mill debts twisted into leverage. The fight lingered, ethical shadows demanding one final push. But in that moment, loyalty wove tighter, a chosen family bridging the gaps of loss. The road to full redemption stretched into the night, promising trials that would test vows to their core, but with the girl's light guiding. Hawk knew they'd ride through. The desert whispered approval, wind carrying scents of renewal as the first stars pierced the velvet sky, a canvas for honor's enduring mark. The stars wheeled overhead like silent witnesses, their cold light filtering through the thin veil of desert clouds that promised rain but delivered only whispers. Hawk leaned against his bike at the edge of the trailer park, the metal frame still warm from the day's ride, absorbing the quiet that followed the standoff. The air had cooled, carrying the earthy scent of sage and the faint, lingering smoke from the communal fires dotting the grounds. Locals milled about now, no longer hiding behind curtains, but gathering in clusters, voices low with a mix of relief and lingering suspicion. The sheriff's cruiser had long vanished into the night, tail lights swallowed by the Badlands, but the echo of Harlan's retreat hung heavy, a fragile victory not yet etched in stone. Lily sat nearby on an overturned crate, her small frame silhouetted against the glow of a lantern Emma had set out. The wildflowers from her stand, salvaged and rearranged, stood in a mismatched vase on the porch, their petals curling like secrets half revealed. The girl's face, smudged with dust and determination, turned toward Hawk as he approached, his boots scuffing softly on the gravel. "You think they'll come back?" she asked, her voice a thread in the breeze, laced with the innocence that had first drawn him in. Hawk crouched to her level, the creak of leather blending with the distant hoot of an owl. His eyes, softened by the firelight, met hers without evasion. They might. But next time, they face more than shadows. We've got the truth on our side now, the records, the deeds, the eyes that saw it all. He placed a hand on her shoulder, the gesture light but laden with the weight of promises kept across miles and years. Jake's memory stirred then, a quiet ache in his chest, reminding him that redemption wasn't a single ride but a lifelong road, paved with choices that honored the lost. Emma emerged from the trailer, her steps steadier than before, the envelope of cash and the folder of evidence tucked under her arm like armor. Sarah hovered close, checking her vitals with practiced efficiency. The nurse's bag open on the stoop, revealing vials that gleamed like hope distilled. "The clinic's on board," Sarah said, her tone resolute as she packed away her tools. "I'll push those prescriptions through emergency channels tomorrow. No more delays." Her own scars, the sibling lost to systemic neglect, fueled this alliance, binding her to the Angel's code in ways words couldn't capture. Tyler and Marcus joined them, the pair dismounting from a patrol run, their bikes idling down to silence. "Outpost reports clean," Tyler said, wiping sweat from his brow. "Locals are talking, a few from the mill days, ready to sign affidavits. Harlan's web's unraveling. That developer's already backpedaling, calling off the surveyors." Marcus nodded, his prosthetic legs settling with a soft thud as he leaned on the porch rail. The older Angel's face, etched with lines from battles long faded, carried a rare smile. "Reminds me of Nam, stand together and the giants fall. This family's growing, Ethan. Lily's wave started it, but we finish it." The group formed a loose circle, the night's chill nipping at exposed skin, but warmth radiated from the shared resolve. Hawk unfolded the map once more, its creases worn like the roads they'd claimed, pointing to scribbled notes on Dustville's underbelly. "Frontier Holdings pulls out. Harlan faces review. State boys'll sniff the bribes soon enough, but we don't wait, we ride witness. Deliver the package to the county seat at dawn. Let the light hit every corner." His voice carried the cadence of a man who'd stared into abysses and chosen the path of quiet honor, the kind that outlasted thunderous roars. Lily listened, her fingers tracing patterns in the dirt, then looked up with eyes bright as the emerging moon. "Will you stay for breakfast? Mama makes pancakes when it rains." The offer, simple and pure, pierced the armor of weariness, drawing nods from the crew. Emma's laugh, faint but genuine, broke the tension, a sound like rain finally falling, washing away the dust of doubt. As the hours slipped toward dawn, the outpost radio crackled to life with confirmations. More Angels en route from neighboring chapters, a convoy of solidarity stretching across state lines. Hawk stepped away briefly, gazing at the horizon where the first blush of light teased the edge of night. The scent of impending rain grew stronger, mingling with leather and gasoline, a sensory vow that this fight had reshaped them all. His brother's ghost felt closer now, not as a burden but a guide, whispering that promises survived in the acts of those who carried them forward. By morning, the park stirred with purpose. Bikes lined the paths like steadfast guardians, engines humming as the full crew assembled, 50 strong, vests gleaming under the rising sun. Hawk mounted up, Lily at his side for the send-off, her wave grander than ever, arms sweeping the sky like a banner of triumph. Emma stood tall, cane planted firm, gratitude etched in every line of her face. "You've given us more than land," she said, a voice steady. "You've given us belief." The convoy rolled out, a thunderous procession that shook the ground, dust swirling in elegant spirals toward the county seat. Along the way, locals joined the edges, truckers honking solidarity, families waving from porches, turning the ride into a river of communal will. At the courthouse steps, the package was presented not with fanfare but dignity. Affidavits stacked high, records unassailable, voices united in testimony. Harlan's resignation hit the wires by noon, Frontier's deal crumbling under scrutiny, the land secured for those who'd earned it through sweat and survival. Back at the stand that afternoon, Lily arranged fresh blooms, the colors vivid against the renewed asphalt. Hawk pulled up alone, dismounting to accept a flower pressed into his palm. "Your wave changed everything," he said, tucking it into his vest. "Keeps the road honest." She smiled, the desert wind tousling her hair. "And yours brought the family I needed." As he rode off, the horizon endless and inviting, Hawk felt the scars of his past lighten, woven into a legacy of loyalty. The Angel's bond. Forged in these trials, stretched unbreakable, a chosen kin riding against the cynic's tide, honoring promises that echoed long after the engines faded. In the quiet aftermath, the trailer park bloomed with small victories. Repairs funded by club donations, a community garden sprouting from the scrub. Lily's stand thrived, waves now greeting a wider world. Her mother's health mending under steady care. Hawk and his brothers patrolled the routes, ever vigilant, their story a whisper on the wind, a testament to redemption's slow, unyielding power. Thank you for riding this journey with us. If these tales of honor and heart move you, hit that subscribe button and join the crew. We've got more roads ahead. Promising stories that remind us what family truly means.